Hello and welcome to our 7-8 minutes of weekly Torah talk. Our guest today is Dr. Rabbi Sasso, Senior Rabbi of Congregation Beit El Tzedek in Indianapolis. Hello, Rabbi. Thank you for being with us.
Good morning, Shmuel. Good to be with you.
Our parsha is Yitro, and in this parsha, Moses' father-in-law, Yitro, comes from Midian to the Israelite camp. He advises Moshe to appoint a hierarchy of magistrates and judges to assist him in the task of governing the people. The people camp opposite Mount Sinai. On the 6th day of the 3rd month, the month of Sivan, 7 weeks after the Exodus, God descends on the mountain and summons Moses to ascend. God proclaims the 10 Commandments. The people cry out to Moshe that the revelation is too intense for them to bear, begging him to receive the Torah from God and convey it to them. The first pasuk of the parsha says, "Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian choten Moshe et kol asher asa Elohim leMoshe uLyisrael amo, ki yotzi Adonai et Yisrael miMitzrayim." Now Moses' father-in-law Jethro, the chieftain of Midian, heard all that God had done for Moses and for Israel, his people, that the Lord had taken Israel out of Egypt. So, Rabbi, let me begin with the question in geography. Where is Mount Sinai?
We don't know. We don't know. Archaeologists have various opinions, and what is interesting is that the Jewish tradition, per se, is not too preoccupied with the location of Sinai. There seems to be a purposeful locational unspecificity. Sinai in the Jewish tradition is not so much a piece of geography, but a memory of an experience. So it is not a place that is stipulated as a sacred place of pilgrimage or a place of worship. It is what happened there and not where it was that is of primordial importance. So I think that this is carried out also in many of the rabbinic midrashic understandings of Sinai. For the Chachamim, there's a contest among the mountains, which is Sinai, and they all prove their credentials. But God, according to Chazal, chooses the humblest and the most undistinguished of the mountains. And then it's outside of the boundaries of the promised land to make a kind of a case for universality. And even more so, the Torah that's proclaimed at Sinai is given not in Hebrew, but in 70 languages simultaneously. So I think that both biblically and in the rabbinic interpretation, Sinai is not so much the locus of an event, but the focus of a spiritual experience that continues to unfold. Each year when we read this parsha, we don't ask, where is Sinai? We ask, where are we heading with the legacy of Sinai? It is not so much a point of origin, but a point of ongoing, constant destination. Each time we read the Parashat, we kind of make an appointment with the God of history as we remember. And it is not just a one-time event. Even when we recite the brachot upon being called up to the reading of the Torah, we, on the one hand, point to the past, Shev Natan Lanu, in the past, God gave us, right. But then we say, Noten HaTorah. The giving of Torah is an ongoing experience. So it's always struck me as very meaningful, interesting for sure, but meaningful, that Sinai is not so much a locus, but a focus of spiritual experience. The constitutional moment of the Jewish experience, constitutional and constitutive. Because of the previous experience of Yetziat Mitzrayim, we now come together and constitute ourselves as a people under freedom. that is the meaning of Sinai for me.
And the Constitution begins with the Ten Commandments, and the Ten Commandments begin, we will not have the time to discuss all of them, so they begin with the first commandment, and it's unique in many ways.
Yes.
So how is it unique?
It ties into the previous experience, right? Am Israel arrives at Sinai having been redeemed from Egyptian bondage. And the whole process of preparing the Israelites for redemption from Egyptian bondage involves Moses in conversation with God about who are you and how are the people going to acknowledge you. And then there is this emphasis on the connectiveness between the God of Yetziat Mitzrayim, the God of Sinai, and the God of our ancestors. And it becomes not so much a God whose essence or existence is being proved, but whose presence with the people is the constant proof of God's fidelity and the people's remembrance. So I have a personal theory about the first of the Aseret HaDibrot, which is not so much a commandment but a prologue, right? An introduction to what follows.
Right.
You know, the text says, Anochi Adonai Elohecha asher hotzeticha me'eretz Mitzrayim. And open most translations, and you will see that the words asher hotzeticha are translated, I am the eternal your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt.
Right.
Now the term asher is a very rich term in Hebrew. It can mean a variety of things. The most common usage is a relative pronoun, who, the one that. But in certain instances, and there are examples of this throughout the Torah and the rest of the Tanakh, the word asher is a causal term. It is tries to prove a connection by cause with what happens. So it means because, or in as much as.
So I'm your God because I took you out of Egypt.
Right. It establishes the connection, the covenant, the bonds that exist between the people and God, which already hark back to Yetziat Mitzrayim. So I translate that passage, I am the eternal your God, in as much as, or because of my faithful acts of bringing you out of the land of Egypt. So it establishes the relationship that is grounded on freedom. So the concept of freedom plays then a central role as well. And the rabbinic tradition picks up on this, right? The only
Right.
that the Torah and freedom are related to one another. So I see in this passage an establishment of the covenantal relationship between God and the people. I think that the same could be said about the first introduction of God to Moses and to the people. Asher. Some of these.
So they use asher there also, right? The word asher repeats itself.
Right. I am because I am. That is, I am the being whose existence is its own foundation for being. My beingness is self-proven. So I believe that we have many other instances of asher where this is evident in the Torah. In some places, it's a little bit more nuanced. And then tradition has accustomed us to translate things in a certain way, as in the first commandment, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. But I think if we think of it as a causal term, asher, because inasmuch this event establishes the relationship that connects us to the past and will keep us together for the future. I think that asher is that type of a weighty term, not just a relative pronoun in that case.
Rabbi, this was fascinating. Thank you so much, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you. I look forward to another conversation.